So we will start with application number 1, B1922, and this is for 56 Smallman Drive. So is there a member here? Okay, so if you want to just step to the front and grab one of those chairs, and just for your information, so everyone can hear you that is online, if you need to speak, you just need to press the middle button on your microphone, and a red light will appear, and then you will be able to speak.
Oh.
All right, well, we're looking after that.
Testing, testing.
All right, perfect. All right, now that we got the microphone situation addressed, I am going to turn the meeting over to Christy, who is the going to read the application as it relates to this this application, as it relates to this property.
Thank you, Chair. Application B1922. The subject lands are municipally addressed as 56 Smallman Drive, Town of Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. The property has a frontage of approximately 30.48 meters, a depth of approximately 45.72 meters, and an area of approximately 1393.55 square meters. Purpose and effect of application. An application has been submitted by James Dice on behalf of FJD Classic Cars Inc., owner of the subject lands. The application proposes to create one new lot for a total of 2 lots. The portion of the property to be severed as shown on sketch, the portion of the property to be severed as shown on the sketch as part 2 has a frontage of approximately 14.63 meters along Smallman Drive, a depth of approximately 45.72 meters, and an area of approximately 682.84 square meters. The portion of the property to be retained as shown on the sketch as part 1 has a frontage of approximately 15.85 meters, a depth of approximately 45.72 meters, and an area of approximately 710.70 square meters. For reference to the proposed severance sketch, please see Amendment 1 of the report. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing based on the above, the Planning Department supports the application B1922, subject to the following conditions be applied. The applicant provide the following monies to the municipality, that all outstanding municipal fees, taxes, and charges, including local improvement charges, be paid out in full. That 5% parkland contribution as required by the Planning Act be paid as a requirement of the approval of the severance, the parcel severed. The applicant provides a registered reference plan, said reference plan to show all of the parcels to be severed and all of the parcels to be retained. That the applicant provide a draft legal description of the severed lands to be included in the certificate of official. Number 4, the applicant apply for and obtain any necessary permits for the demolition of the existing building structures on the severed lands, part 2. Including the fence as shown in figure 2. All the existing building structures on the severed lands, part 2, shall be removed, including the fence as shown in figure 2. And the applicant shall provide confirmation of the demolition and removal to Planning and Economic Initiatives Department prior to the issuance of certificate of official. That any attached or detached building structures on the retained lands, part 1, be brought into conformity with the required setbacks of the zoning bylaw or be removed. Should the buildings require removal, demolition, the applicant shall apply for and obtain any necessary permits for the demolition and shall provide confirmation of the demolition and removal to the Planning and Economics Initiatives Planning Department prior to the issuance of certificate of official. That the driveway be constructed in compliance with section 3.38.2.10 of the zoning bylaw. That the applicant contact WDI for the requirements of providing a new service to the lot, and confirmation is provided to the Town of Wasaga Beach Planning Department. Then overall lot grading plan for the 2 lots be submitted to Public Works for review and approval. That a new set of municipal services must be installed for the severed lot, Part 2. That any existing or proposed sanitary services will require a 200 millimeter diameter sanitary service cleanout inspection port to be installed at the street property line as per the town engineering standards, drawing number 12A. Further services must be a minimum 1.5 meters from the side yard property line. That number 11, that a road occupation permit shall be taken out prior to the start of any construction activity in the roadway. Number 12, that all conditions of this decision be fulfilled and the documents presented to the Planning Department for issuance of the certificate of official within a period of not exceed 24 months from the date of decision. Comments. Public Works notes that according to the town records, a single set of existing municipal water and sanitary services are located off of Smallman Drive, servicing the existing dwelling, retained lot, Part 1. Existing municipal services appear to be in the acceptable location. A new set of municipal services must be installed for the severed lot, Part 2. Municipal water and sanitary sewers is available in the roadway on Smallman Drive. Public Works has concern with how the individual lots will manage stormwater when the severed lot will be developed. Public Works notes that it is likely that the retained lot will require some regrading to manage stormwater runoff. It is requested that an overall lot grading plan be submitted to Public Works for review and approval. Wasaga Distribution Inc. Wasaga Distribution Inc. has reviewed the proposal and have no objections to its approval, subject to the following comments. WDI has received and reviewed the submitted plan proposal. The review, however, does not imply any approval of the project plan, as there is currently no electrical service. The applicant must contact WDI for the requirements of providing a new service to the lot in question. WDI comments can be found within Appendix 2. Hydro One. So Hydro One has reviewed the documents concerning the noted plan and have no concerns at this time. And that's it. We do have, and Adam, we do have 2 people here today that would like to speak to it after, or Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. So I will ask, is it James? Is that correct? Jim? Okay, Jim. So before, I'll pass it over to you to kind of speak to some of these items, if you have anything to add, before asking members of the public if they have any comments. So go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Very good. First off, it's almost 50 years since I've been before the Committee of Adjustment for Wasaga Beach. So it's good to be back. Lived here all my life. The only one we accept all the recommendations. We understand that some buildings have to be removed, and we might have to remove some of the deck at the side of the house. That will be determined when the surveyor actually puts the pegs in, and we can measure over. We went off fence lines and so forth to make up the plan, but that's the intention. Okay, so we'll wait for that. And the other buildings, we understand they have to be removed and so forth, and that's not an issue with us. The only issue that we do have is that number 8. That an overall lot grading plan for the 2 lots be submitted to Public Works for review and approval. That relates over to the page 3. The Public Works has concern in how the individual lots will manage stormwater when the severed lot will be developed. Our position is, for the lot grading plan, we can't change the elevation of the house, and it has existed for probably 25 years or so, and we've heard of no issues with the owner or the previous owner we got in touch with. So we're wondering why a lot grading plan would have to be for that property. In your lot grading plan, we accept that one will have to be done when we put a house on the severed lot, if we choose to put a house on it. But we're wondering about the preliminary step here of an overall lot grading plan. Do you want it by a registered, the fellow in Wyville or Reed Engineering or whatever, or can we go and give you your elevations regarding to the road, the house, the entrance to the house, the outside lot lines, any major deviations in elevation? If we could do that ourselves, we'd be pleased to hand that in. But before we put a house on it, we don't know where the house is going to actually go. We don't know the size of it. We don't know the elevation of it. We don't know whether it's going to have a basement or not have a basement. And all those factors would be put into a lot grading plan when we apply for a permit. So this, I ran into this a bit ago with a severance we did just a couple of months ago. And the idea that came from that was the house can't be changed in elevation. But your lot grading plan says there has to be a swale, and it gives the dimensions and where it has to be between the 2 properties, so you can't affect, their new house can't affect the property on either side or the back. It doesn't usually say the back, but on both sides. So we think you're covered in that. And that's our position, that number 8 shouldn't be in there. But when we apply for a permit, if we choose to, on the vacant lot, then we have to do the lot grading plan and protect both the property on both sides. So to us, that's just extra cost right now, and it doesn't tell you anything that you don't know. The house is there, and until we build, there's no effect to it. Everything else, I'm happy with.
Was there anything else you'd like to add about the application itself?
No, just thank you for granting me.
Okay. So we haven't granted it yet, but it's certainly being considered. So having heard your comments, you indicated there were a couple members of the public that wanted to speak to this.
Correct. We have, sorry, one moment, excuse me. Yes, so we have Kimberly Scott and Mike, Kimberly and Mike, is that correct? Did you guys want to come forward and state your, okay. Yeah, if you just want to have a seat there, I guess.
Do I have to hit this thing? Or? It's on right. Okay. So you, sorry, just get close to the microphone. Okay. So pretty much the idea for splitting this lot is because there's going to be a future house there, I'm assuming, because nobody's going to split the lot just to split it. There's an actual garage that's in, I don't know why would anybody take it down, it's in perfectly good shape. And the garage was strategically put there by the previous owner for the reason that that lot could never be split. And like the grade issues, like you're talking about, that the town has a concern with, I'd have the same concern, because it's kind of sloping towards the back, like the whole property. So pretty much a lot of the waters, unless it's drained properly, would end up in my backyard. And the fence, there's a fence on the property line, which is my fence, but it's directly on the property line. So if they have to put a swale, what happens? They put it between the two lots, or they put it on their own lot? So there's a bunch of concerns. I just don't get why that lot has to be split. And pretty much I know he's a landlord, so he'll rent. So it's not like he's building a house for himself. He's building it to rent. So, and I'm pretty sure that you can't stop him from splitting the lot, but the other issues we're gonna have is with the drainage and culvert, like in front where the driveways are meeting and stuff like that. Something's gonna have to be done there, because the way it is now, it's not gonna be able to take the water. And pretty much the property is kind of going backwards. So if they raise that property, we'll have to figure out something, because a lot of the water is gonna end up on my property and the existing house that's there. Because right now the garage is exactly 6 feet from the other house. And there is a deck back there saying that they're not gonna not have to remove the deck, or they'll have to do minor adjustments. They're gonna have to take that deck right out. It's like 12 feet out. Neighbors will be walking into the other property if the deck's there. So pretty much that's my concerns right now. I'm surprised none of the other neighbors are here today, but. Yep.
So thank you for your comments, and did you get his name? Mike and, sorry,
Sorry. Yes, Mike, Marion and Kimberly, correct? Yeah, yes, we have that. Thank you.
thank you. So we have everything that we need, so thank you for your comments. Was there anyone else here today that wanted to speak to this application?
Not that I'm aware of, Mr. Chair. Is there anybody in the, is the lady, Andrea, is the lady in the Zoom, what's her name? Okay, could you want to maybe ask her? Zoom call? Is there anyone on the Zoom call today that would have that has any further comments for application B1922? Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I will now close the public portion of the meeting and ask the committee members if they have any questions of the applicant. We'll start with Member Van Gool, and we'll just go around the table.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple clarifications, I guess. The one, and the gentleman addressed this, is the removal of the garage and the other ancillary buildings, which I believe is covered in this, or at least in the recommendation. So I expect that garage, which is a nice garage, is going to be removed as well if it's granted. Okay. With regards to drainage, I'm assuming staff can address that in terms of why the drainage plan would be required?
And through you, Mr. Chair, in terms of the drainage, I believe you're speaking to, I guess, condition number 8 with regard to the overall lot grading plan. So that was a recommendation that we did get from the Public Works Department. That was a recommended condition from them. So I'm not sure how much planning can speak to that, but that was a recommendation from our Public Works Department.
I'm assuming that you'd require those plans just to be sure that both properties are drained properly, or at least keep the water on those properties that have been severed, so that the adjoining properties aren't impacted, as well as anyone behind or in front of you, I suppose. So that'd be my my guess of why that would be required. Question, I guess, would be whether you need to do it on the new severed property. If there's no house on there yet, would you still require a drainage plan before a house has been applied for, or not?
As this is one of the conditions of the severance, they would need to complete the lot grading plan prior to the certificate of official being granted.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Mr. Chair, the question is to planning there. With the, obviously, one of the neighbors has a concern about water, and we'd want that to be addressed and, make sure their property is secure and from that. What would be required to make it a condition of not having the issue number 8 addressed now, but before a property is actually built there? Is that a possibility?
Through you, Mr. Chair, in terms of the conditions, these are the recommendations by planning staff. However, if committee feels as though they don't agree with one of these conditions, you are able to make an amendment to that.
Thank you.
So, Member Paul, do you have any comments?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to comment on that. I think the owner is quite right. I think to have a grading plan done prior to the house, they're not knowing what the elevations of the house are going to be. That would certainly affect the water runoff to the rear property, which is the other owner's concern. I think that we should probably move a motion to amend that until he submits a drawing for an existing home with the proper elevations, and it doesn't make sense to have a grading plan prior to putting a home in there when you don't know the elevations. And that's going to go against the neighbor in behind as well, and resolve that swale issue as he indicated along the fence line. Where would the swale go? I think they're both go hand in hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question for staff. Is there a way that we can remove this requirement or amend it? And if so, do you have language that could be used instead?
Yeah, I would. Sorry about that. So, Mr. Chair, the committee is able to amend conditions. I would note that the professional opinions of the engineering department, the planning staff, those conditions are in their professional engineering and planning staff opinions. So, if the committee chose to do a revised condition, then the committee can ask perhaps for some help on some of the wording with planning staff, but this would be their recommendation. And this is the engineering department's review and their conditions that they have put forth after their extensive review of the application.
Thank you for clarification. Any other comments from the committee members? We've closed the public portion of the meeting, so no further comments are being received at this point. Any other comments from the committee members? Okay, so I will call the motion that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approve the application from James Dice with the recommendations as set out in the application. Do I have a mover and a seconder?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, are we going to amend that Clause 8 after this?
So I believe the the way that it has to be done, we have to vote on this. If this does not pass, then we have an option to put something else on the floor. Is that correct?
Yes. That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so,
Is that right?
so right now, we're just voting on the application with the recommendations as set out. So if that does not get approved, then by all means, we can put something else on the table. One of the members can put something else on the table to be considered. I will ask, do I have a mover and seconder? And I think Member Van Gool moved it.
Yeah, I move the motion.
Actually, sorry, Adam, so we're looking at modifying the conditions that are there and approving it with that? It should- Yeah, okay. Okay, Mr. Okay, proceed, sorry. Thanks.
If I'm doing something wrong, please let me know now. But did you want to chat with somebody just to make sure that we're doing this properly?
Yes, can we take a brief moment, a break for a moment? Mr. Chair?
Absolutely. So we'll just take a couple minutes to get confirmation that procedurally we're doing this properly, and then we'll reconvene.
Mr. Chair, I just ask that we just take a quick moment and no talking in between, please. Thank you. Yeah, so we would modify the conditions and then put it to a vote. Mr. Chair.
So just to confirm that I have it right, so we are not going to be asking for a mover and seconder?
No, so you would modify the condition, so it's condition number 8. We would either reword it or take it out or whatever the committee wishes to do. And then we would put the new conditions, so the new decision essentially with the new conditions would then be voted on, Chair.
Thank you for confirming. I will ask the committee if they would like to amend the application, specifically, I guess, number 8, the drainage. So I will ask one of the members here if they want to put that recommendation forward.
Yes. And I would say make it a condition before the building is built on the property to ensure that the property behind is protected.
Do that. I would just ensure that a drainage plan is required before the property is developed, and not just consider the back, but the entire property, obviously. And your property, obviously, next door, that it's not impacted going in the future, because any future purchaser would be concerned with that as well, I would think.
I second.
Okay, so just so we're clear, so I think we have something, a recommendation put forward by member Wooten, and it's that the land being severed, so the new lot, there would be a grading plan required when they apply for a building permit. Is that correct? So there would be no requirement for the existing lot, the retained lot, to have a drainage plan. Is that correct? Did you catch that?
Yeah, so condition number 8 right now says that an overall lot grading plan for the 2 lots be submitted to Public Works for review and approval. And the suggested wording is that you guys would like it, the committee would like that an overall lot grading plan for which lot? The new lot. And okay. And through you, Mr. Chair, I'm just going to ask if perhaps the planner on the file can just provide a little bit more guidance with some of the wording on this to ensure that we capture the right part or on the plan.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I would agree with the wording of severed lot, if that's what the committee is intending on.
Severed. Okay. So I'll just confirm wording. Then an overall lot grading plan for the new lot or severed be submitted to Public Works for review and approval. Is that what the committee?
So I think, and I don't want to speak for the members here, but I believe it was when a building was being proposed, or is that accurate? Okay. So I will ask for some guidance with that wording. Essentially, we are looking for a lot grading plan for the severed lot to be provided to the town's engineering department once a building permit has been applied for.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'll read out the new condition. The overall lot grading plan for the new lot or severed be submitted to the Public Works for review and approval once a building permit has been applied for.
I believe that captures what the committee wanted, and unfortunately, I don't think there's a building official here, but I think that is a requirement of the building code anyways, so we're just, I guess, covering our bases. So do I have a mover for the amended recommendations? Okay, that's moved by Member Wooten and seconded by Member Paul. So all in favor? Carried. So I apologize, that took a little bit longer than expected, but that sometimes happens. So we're moving on to item number 2, so application A27. So I will pass it over to Christy for reading of the application.
Application A2722. Land subject to the application, Lot 29, Plan 51M1085, subject to the easement for entry as in SC 1758231, Town Wasaga Beach. Application for minor variance A2722 was submitted by Lisa Davis, owner of the subject land. The application requests relief from Section 3.1, accessory uses in buildings and structures from the zoning bylaw. Specifically, the applicant requests relief from Section 3.1.2 to permit a horizontal dimension of 9.75 meters for a detached accessory building to a residential use in an R1 zone, whereas a maximum of 9 meters is permitted. The application requests further relief from Section 4, residential type 1, R1, Zone 4.1 provisions of the comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended. Specifically, the applicant requests relief from Section 4.3.6 to permit a rear yard setback of 3.08 meters for the detached accessory building, whereas 7.6 meters is required. The variance requested would permit the construction of a 47.58 square meter detached accessory building with a height of 3.9 meters. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing, the planning department supports application A2422, subject to the following conditions be applied. 1, that all other provisions of the zoning bylaw are complied with, that any future development on the lot will adhere to the Town of Wasaga Beach standards and policies, including infill lot grading and drainage policy if required, that a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way if required, that the development will be consistent with the conceptual site plan sketch provided with the application shown as Schedule 1 of this report, that the applicant provide the town written confirmation that the proposed structure under this application has been reviewed and deemed appropriate by the subdivision developer's civil engineer for the subject lands, that the applicant provide the town with written confirmation that the proposed structure under the application has been reviewed and deemed appropriate by the subdivision developer's civil engineer for abutting lots 23 and lot 25, that the shed at the rear of the property be removed as verified by a satisfactory site inspection conducted by planning staff on or before the date that is determined by the Committee of Adjustment to ensure compliance with Section 3.1.3 of the town zoning bylaw, and that all accessory buildings demonstrate compliance with the accessory lot coverage requirements under Section 3.1.2 of the town zoning bylaw. Comments and discussion. Public Works comments. The town's Public Works Engineering Department are not in support of the above noted application, as the proposed development had appeared to encroach into an existing landscape buffer, which was a requirement of the subdivision agreement registered on title as instrument SC 1291062. A copy of those comments were attached to the staff report as Appendix 1. It should be noted that the town's planning department has included the Public Works and Engineering engineering conditions number 1 and 2 as conditions of approval for this minor variance application, as to ensure that the future development of the property complies with all required lot grading standards. Planning staff notes that Public Works and Engineering condition number 3 to increase the rear yard setback to 9 meters so that vegetative buffer, as stated in the registered subdivision agreement, would negate the requested variance from the minimum required rear yard setback in the R1 zone. Although the subdivision agreement states that a vegetative buffer along the rear lot line is to be provided, this area is not zoned as such, and based on planning staff's visit of the site, there appears to be no evidence that suggests trees were removed to construct the pavilion. Respectfully, it is planning staff's opinion that Public Works and Engineering condition number 3 is unnecessary. Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority. The subject property is located outside the MVCA regulatory area, and there's no comments required for this minor variance application.
Thank you very much. So is Lisa here? Okay, I'm just going to ask you to come up. And just like I stated before, if you wish to speak, I'll get you to say a few words if you wish. Just press the middle button, make sure the light is red, and you'll be able to speak. So go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time today. I just wanted to make everyone aware that I did go 200 feet from my property to all residents, and I did have them sign a consent form that they didn't have an issue with the pavilion, the building of it, the structure itself, and the purpose. So I did go and explain the purpose and had the opportunity to actually meet the neighbors, since I'm new to the neighborhood as well, and have those discussions. I had them prior to the beginning of the building. I did call into the town of Wasaga for some guidance. And so, like I said, as far as I know, there are no discrepancies from any neighbors or any concerns at this point.
Thank you. Did you have any further thing to add about any, as it relates to the application, any comments?
The entire purpose for this pavilion was strictly since COVID. When this happened, a lot of people were unable to actually travel or do other things that way. So I moved from the town of Caledon into Wasaga Beach for the purpose of being closer to my father, but also having a piece of property in which I can have such amenities so that if I'm not able to travel in the future, I can actually enjoy the property here. So that was the purpose to this piece in particular. Had I been aware of the height restriction in order to have this relief, I would have followed those guidelines differently. It's not something that I was aware of at the time. Thank you.
Thank you. So I will ask if there's anyone from the public wishing to speak to this application.
We don't have anybody in person with us, and I ask if anybody's on Zoom that would like to speak to this application. Can you please raise your hand? No, Mr. Chair, we don't have anybody in the gallery today that would like to speak to this application.
Thank you. And I will ask the members, starting with Member Van Gool, if he has any comments.
So this pavilion's already been built, is that right? So we're going kind of cart before the horse type of thing here. What are the implications of building like a staff of this, building before you get permits to do all these things? Because we don't know, if a road permit's been applied for, paid for, or any of those type of things. So how does this exactly work when we're going kind of backwards from what we should be doing?
Sure, through the chair, this might be a question best addressed through the town's building department. What I can say is from a planning perspective, the proposal must comply with the requirements of the zoning bylaw, and that's why we're here today, is to ensure that although this is a retroactive application, we're addressing something that's been partially constructed, it will comply with the zoning standards if you are to approve the application.
So just so I understand, if we find something here, or you find something that doesn't comply with the requirements of the application, the owner would have to make those changes to comply?
That's correct. And with regards to the building permit, that would ultimately be at the discretion of the town's building department to determine what course of action might be needed if there are any concerns.
Okay, that's all. Thank you.
I had a question. Okay, it's already been built. Is it complete, like completely done?
Yes, with the exception of the gas hookup. So all the services are run to the pavilion, but nothing's actually turned on. So it's not, we wanted to make sure that the permits and all of that passed first. But all of the work done for this follows all codes. So we have pictures of the building structure throughout the process. At the time, I didn't know I needed a building permit for it, so my apologies as we're going backwards. This is the reason. But everything that was done, all the lines that were buried, all the services, everything's taken pictures to make sure that it's buried to a certain depth, following all the guidelines and otherwise. But yeah, so it's completely built and ready, just a matter of turning services on.
All right, and if approved here, your intention is to comply with all the requirements?
Yes, correct.
All the gas lines were inspected by the proper authorities, the gas company, and they all meet the codes? You said they're put underground. Is that been verified through inspections?
Yes, correct. We went through a builder here locally who did the work, and like I said, the gas hookups are yet to be tagged and done, strictly because we have the pictures, they've done the inspections, but we didn't want to actually put services in action. But yes, everything has been inspected throughout the process.
So all the proper paperwork is in order?
I would assume. Like I said, I went through I went through my builder to do this initially, and he was the one who was getting approvals as we went through.
But you haven't seen any paperwork to prove any of this?
No.
Well, I think that would be important to have, to be honest with you, to make sure everything is properly done and those gas lines are at proper depth and all the proper hookups are completed. I'm not sure how we'd handle that, but I think that's given the fact that the cart's before the horse. Even though I've seen the building, I think that's important to get that or provide that to the building department. I think. I mean, and whatever else that may need, that they may need, that other things, whatever that is.
Yep, anything that I am asked to provide, I will make every effort to provide.
I think I'll look for support here on this one.
Through the chair, I think in this case, you could best capture this concern through a condition of approval on the application. You could comment specifically on what your concerns might be, and through the final inspection by the building department, they could specifically look at what you're looking to outline.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we should do, definitely. Okay. Mr. Chair, I guess we're looking for some language for an amendment.
So it sounds like majority of the committee members are looking for it the recommendations to be amended to include a provision relating to the gas lines and making sure that those are properly inspected and installed. Is that accurate?
And Mr. Chair, through you, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to remind the committee that that we're here to for the 4 tests of reviewing this application are to be the 4 tests of the Planning Act. And if the committee wishes to amend it, then I would like some recommended wording, or does the committee have some wording that they would like added to the recommendation today? Or the condition?
And just for everyone's information, can you just confirm the four tests that we have to consider?
Yeah, that it would be, if you would like to just give me the condition, we can just work through that, Mr. Chair. Is the condition that it meets the building, or can the planner perhaps provide some?
Sorry, I am just gonna put forward, like, we're here for a minor variance application. And I think what staff are maybe alluding to is we don't want to overstep our boundary when we're considering these applications, specifically as it relates to maybe things that we may not know, like entirely what processes may need to be followed. So I am going to suggest, I guess if we have any other, first of all, I'm going to see if there's any other comments.
There's no public comments, but if there's any other.
So we'll close the public portion of this meeting, and I will put forward, I will ask if I have a mover for that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approve the application from Lisa Davis with the recommendations contained. So I am going to move that. Do I have a seconder?
Yes.
So I do have a seconder, and all of those in favor, and this is without the recommendations that we may want to put forward, but just as the application sits right here with the recommendations as identified in here. So I will move it. We have a seconder. All in favor?
Okay, I just want to clarify. I was looking to have it approved, but with a condition of meeting the requirements. Like the gas line as an example, being properly checked, meeting the building bylaws, things of that nature.
Through the chair, with regards to staff's opinion, this wouldn't necessarily be a planning compliance sort of question. This is likely something that will be addressed through the final inspection when the building department is to go out on site. Specifically, if there's something that you would like to raise for that department, we could include it, or you could include it as a condition of approval. But really, this is more of a building matter as opposed to a planning compliance sort of question.
Could we not make an amendment just to the application that includes a requirement to have utilities inspected and approved? That be sufficient?
Through the chair, it's really at your discretion to decide what kind of conditions you'd like to add to the report or to the application, pardon me.
I don't know if you completed the last motion, but perhaps it hasn't passed because I don't think you've called for a, I think we should amend the motion, frankly, before we go forward. I'm prepared to move forward on an amended application.
Okay, so it looks like we are looking for an amendment to this application as well. If you want to put forward your recommendation for, I guess it would be item 8, new item, so to help Christie out.
So I move to accept the application with an amendment to require inspection of utilities, require inspection and approval of utilities already installed.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
I move to accept the application with the amendment to require inspection of utilities, all utilities, and approval.
Hold on one moment, please. The
Okay, sorry.
inspection of utilities. And
Inspection and approval of
inspection
utilities.
and approval of utilities. Yeah.
Correct.
Is that all?
That's correct.
That require inspection and approval of utilities.
Pardon me, through the chair, if I may just add one piece of advice or comment just with regards to that condition that you're applying. I would just perhaps recommend that you add at the discretion of the building department at the end of that condition. But that's my planning opinion aside, this is just a recommendation.
It's acceptable to me as the mover to add that amendment to my motion.
So when you're ready, Christie, if you can read that recommendation.
Okay, so that is required that it be the inspection and approval of utilities. And would you like to, and what was the last part? To the standards of the building department? or-
At the discretion of the building department.
They've all been installed, so like lighting.
Yes, all complete. So if I may ask, what does that mean from the perspective of an inspection for you? So what is required of me at this point? So I'm just crystal clear.
So this may require you to seek, I guess, inspection and seek inspection for the utilities that have been hooked up and installed to this building or the structure to ensure that it conforms with the necessary regulations.
So who's installed the utilities, they would then provide something document-wise for your building department, is this correct?
That is correct. If required by building services, that those documents be included or forwarded to the department.
I think whatever the building inspector would require from you, that's what you'd have to supply for him to be satisfied that they've been installed properly.
Blank exactly what it is that would be required. So if I go back to who installed the gas and who did the electrical, I now ask them to provide documentation, or is there a form that I do, or how does this work so that I make sure that we're not toggling back and forth with what is the requirement to you.
Permit applications, your builder should be able to supply all that. Yeah.
Through the chair, again, this would be at the discretion of the town's building department as opposed to the planning department, and they could provide clarification in the way of process to have this condition fulfilled.
So I would go to the building department and ask them what's required for you to meet these recommendations and get your application completed.
Okay, thank you.
I will look over to Christy to see if she has a final.
So just to clarify, so we're looking for a condition that requires the applicant to get a required, the inspection and approval of utilities at the discretion of the building department? Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd also like to note that the application was also circulated to the building department for comment. And I can, the condition that I have noted here from the discussions is that is required inspection and approval of utilities at the discretion of the building department. Is that correct?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a comment to the applicant.
I guess my question, all utilities servicing the structure, would that be, to make it more clear, I guess, should we make it? And it looks like we have the clerk here to maybe help us out with this.
I just want to caution the committee, the building department and the chief building official would be the authority on that. I don't know that the committee could require the building department to do any sort of additional work. It is the building department that follows the building code, and is the building department that would decide what inspections are required. So I'd be careful about adding a authority to oversee or require when it's the building department and the chief building official that would be that authority.
Could I ask a question? So are we to assume that the building department will be doing an inspection of the property and that we can accept that the proper inspections will be completed? Is that what you're saying? So I don't want to be responsible if something happens and it isn't covered somewhere in the process.
Through the chair, it's my understanding that a final inspection will occur once the building permit is issued, or, excuse me, before the building permit is issued.
And that includes already installed utilities, because we're in a situation here where it's already been done. So normally these things are done as the building's being put up. So I guess I'm concerned that utilities have already been buried. We're depending on photos that haven't been necessarily date stamped or verified or any of those type of things. So in my mind, if you don't have those things, you'd require excavation to prove something. But if the building department will do that and are comfortable after the fact to approve those things, then I'm fine with it. But normally, at least my experience with building, is those things are done as the building's put up. And that's the only way to verify visually that things have been done. If we're overstepping our bounds here, then that's fine. And I can put faith in the building department that they'll take care of it. I just want to ensure that that's the case.
I did have a building inspector there. Yes, the director of building and development, who was on site prior to the completion, and he did see many of the items that we speak of.
So can I have confidence that the proper inspections have been done and approved at this point? Is that what you're saying, or?
So we are approving the minor variance for this application. So essentially, the next step would be for the applicant to obtain the necessary building permits, and part of that may require them to obtain inspections for utilities. I don't know, I'm not a building inspector, so I can't comment or say 100% that that is part of the building process. But essentially, the applicant, once or if approved through this process, would be required to obtain the necessary building permits.
Okay, I don't see that in the requirements, that building permits are required to be applied for, and, or is that somewhere in here that I don't see?
I am assuming that this is, this application is a little bit different because the building or the structure has already been built, so we are essentially approving a variance as a result of, I guess, the applicant or the applicant's agent not considering what zoning requirements may have been needed at the time. So in order to obtain that building permit, they have to apply with. So my understanding is that if this is approved, the next step would be applying for a permit, which could cover, again, utilities.
Through the chair, to reiterate what the chair has just shared, the building permit is essentially contingent on the approval of this application. That's why we're here looking at the planning analysis. It's a second step in the process. So if this is approved, they would then go out, do an inspection before a final building permit is issued.
Okay, this just seems, again, cart before the horse, so it seems odd to get a building permit after you've done it. Obviously, it's, I guess, the way it is. But if that's the case, if you still have to go through the process of applying for a building permit and all those things, I'm assuming if the building permit isn't given, that the building would have to be removed. Is that accurate? Okay, well, that's fine with me then.
Through you, Mr. Chair, would you like me to remove?
And so do I have a mover?
Yes.
Thank you. So member Wooten moved it, and
second.
and member Paul seconded it. All in favor? So you are approved for the minor variance. Next step is through the building department.
Thank you.
All right, so the next item up is application number 3A2822, 63 Bianca Crescent, and I believe member Wooten will be stepping aside as he has declared a pecuniary interest in this matter. Do we have somebody speaking to it? So if you want to come up here, we will get the committee secretary to read out the application.
Thank you. Land subject to the application, 63 Bianca Crescent. Application for minor variance A2822 was submitted by Christina Dunsmore on the behalf of Kent and Jackie Wooton, owners of the subject land. The application requests relief from Section 3.7 swimming pools from the zoning bylaw as amended. Specifically, the applicant requests relief from Section 3.7.2 to permit a swimming pool as an accessory use to the permitted residential type 3 R3 use that does not comply with the setback requirements of the zone. The application requests further relief from Section 6, R3 Zone 6.1, zone provisions of the comprehensive zoning bylaw as amended and summarized below. Section 4.6, my apologies, Section 6.4.16 to permit an interior side yard setback of 1.52 meters for the pool, whereas 2 meters is required. Section 6.3.6 to permit a rear yard setback of 1.52 meters for the pool, whereas 7.6 meters is required. The variance requested would permit the construction of a 4.83 square meter in-ground plunge pool with an approximate pool depth of 3 feet 4 inches. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing, the Planning Department supports application A2822, subject to the following conditions being applied: that all other provisions of the zoning bylaw be complied with, that any future development on the lot will adhere to the current Town of Wasaga Beach standards and policies, including the infill lot grading and drainage policy if required, that a road occupation permit shall be taken out for any works within the right-of-way if required, that any works that may affect the grading of the lot be coordinated with the subdivision developer, that a lot grading certificate be submitted to the subdivision's developer civil engineer and accepted by the town for the subject lot and abutting neighboring parcels, that construction activity and final grading must not negatively affect the existing stormwater management system, that the development will be consistent with the conceptual site plan sketch provided with the application shown as Schedule 1 of this report. Public Works comments, engineering. The Town Public Works Engineering do not oppose the application subject to conditions 5, 6, and 7 of the staff report. A copy of the formal comments were submitted by the town's Public Works and Engineering Department to this, and have been affixed to this report, Appendix 1. Nottawasaga Valley Conservation Authority comments. The subject property is located outside the regulated area of the NVCA. Therefore, comments from the NVCA for this application are not required. And we received one verbal comment via voicemail, if you'd like me to read that now. Yeah. On Thursday, October 13th at 12:35 p.m., Sophia De La Vega left a voicemail, and it states as follows. It said the following: I would like this pool to be smaller, fit in with the bylaws, and not exceed the set boundary set in an R3 zone. They're looking for more, and I think it should fit in the zoning bylaw. Also worried about leaking. It's pretty close to townhouses that are all attached together. Also, there is a fence on the park side which can be accessed by kids or anybody. It's only a small chain link fence. I also note that there's fence and housing that is not totally fenced off. That's a concern I also have, so I oppose this adjustment. That's all I have to say. Thank you. And is there anyone on the Zoom call that would like to speak to this today? Yes, and can you please state your name and
So I'm Christina Dunsmore. I'm actually the applicant, but I actually am the pool install company, Berry Fiberglass Pools and Spas, that's providing the pool for Kent and Jackie. So I just didn't know if you needed my input in regards to some of the issues that Sophia had brought up, or if there was any questions that I can assist with in the installation and what we're seeking relief from.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't know if you want to take the opportunity for the applicant or the agent to speak to the application or address those.
Sure. So there's no one else, obviously, on the call that would like to speak to this matter. Is that correct? Other than the agent?
Correct.
Perfect. So I guess I will look to Jackie to find out if she would like to speak to this, or if she would like or the agent that's on the call to speak to these issues.
We can both speak if you permit that. Christina wants to speak first. She can go ahead, and I can speak
Sure.
second. Thank you.
Thanks, Jackie. So I just wanted to confirm, I know point stated in the voicemail that was left for the pool to be smaller. We're actually working with a very small pool to start with. It's more of a spa hot tub style pool. Due to the way the installation's being done without it sitting on the ground, it's being installed into the ground like an in-ground spa. We've needed to go through the building department to obtain the pool permit. It's only 3 feet 4 inches, so the depth of it is quite small, and we're working with less than a 10 by 10 space. With the size of the yard, with it being a townhouse, we are looking for relief just to have that pool sit a little bit closer to the rear and side lot lines, just because of the space of the backyard. But with all precautions taken in, we are working with the building department already to ensure that the fence permit is in place for all safety levels, and that will follow the proper guidelines. As well as the spa itself will be equipped with a insulated hot tub cover that will be lockable, so there shouldn't be any safety concerns with regards to the installation of the pool. Even though I know that there's a park and whatnot by, the building department has no concerns with regards to that, as long as we're following all the guidelines in those situations. In regards to leaking, it is like an in-ground pool. There should be no leaking. It's a fiberglass shell that's being installed in the backyard. Draining it, it's going to be a year-round spa. There should be no issues with leaking. It's going to have the pool equipment is going to be located in the backyard as well. And those are all things that we've gone through with the planning department as well as the building department to ensure that we're following all guidelines there required.
Thank you very much for your comments. And Jackie, if you'd like to share any comments.
Thank you, Christine. Through you, the chair, I guess I would say. Okay, so I want to address a couple of concerns with the neighbor. We are on the opposite side of the neighbor that called in to complain or have her concern. We are actually an end unit. So we back out onto a fence. The side of our yard backs out onto the park property. So there shouldn't be any issues of safety concern. There is a fence already erected by the town. And as Christina addressed, the pool cover is like a hot tub cover. It locks. So there's no safety concern there. And we do plan on putting a fence up as soon as the pool is installed, as soon as we can break ground, like a taller fence. And I guess.
Mr. Chair, is that a, through the chair, is that a privacy fence? And if that's a privacy fence?
No, that won't be a privacy fence. That'll be a regulated fence like we already have on the rear of the property. There'll be a fence going all the way up. Like, I guess
That
you
would
can.
be classified as a privacy fence.
Okay, then it's a
I've seen it,
privacy
yeah,
fence,
versus
yeah.
a chain link.
Yeah, versus a
Yeah,
chain link, you're
that's-
correct,
okay, thank
yes.
you.
You're welcome.
Any other comments from the committee members? Okay, so I will close the public portion of the meeting and ask that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approve the application from Kent and Jackie Wooten in relation to this application with the recommendations being set out in the application. So do I have a mover? Moved by Member Van Gool and seconded by Member Paul. All in favor? So that is carried. And Christina, I don't know if you heard that, but the application has been approved by the committee. So if you'd like to log off, that's fine.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay, so let the, I guess, minutes reflect that Member Wooten has now joined us back at the table for the final application this evening, which is application number 4, A2622. And I believe this is from last month. So if you'd like to join us at the table, similar to the other applications, we'll get the treasurer or committee secretary to read the application, and then we'll provide you with an opportunity to speak to the application itself. So I will pass that over.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. File A2622, land subject to the application, Sunnydale concession, concession 16, part lot 4, municipally addressed as 13630 First Street North, Town Wasaga Beach, County of Simcoe. The subject lands have a frontage of approximately 18.26 meters and a depth of 53.35 meters and an area of approximately 975.35 square meters. Purpose and effect. Application for minor variance A2622 was submitted by Sabino Cadenacci, owner of the subject lands. The application requests relief from Section 3.1, accessory uses, buildings, and structures, zoning provisions of the zoning bylaw as amended. Specifically, the applicant requests relief from Section 3.1.4 to increase the maximum permitted height of a detached accessory building with a peaked roof from 5 meters to 5.7 meters. Section 3.1.5.4 to permit the construction of a detached garage with a front yard setback of 6.4 meters, whereas accessory structures are not permitted within the front yard or are located closer to the street line than the main dwelling. Section 3.1.5.7 to permit the location of a detached garage with an increased height to be located between the front lot line and main dwelling. The variances requested would facilitate the construction of a 49.92 square meter garage with a height of 5.7 meters located within the front yard with a setback of 6.4 meters from the front lot line. Recommendation. In consideration of the foregoing, the Planning Department supports application A2622 subject to the following conditions being applied: that all other provisions of the zoning bylaw 2003-60 be complied with, that the development will be consistent with the site plan and drawings provided with the application contained within Appendix A of the report, that the owner confirm that the setbacks of the existing shed conform with the zoning bylaw or are otherwise brought into compliance with the zoning bylaw and provide that that confirmation to planning staff, that the proposed driveway leading to the proposed garage is constructed in compliance with Section 3.38.2.2 of the zoning bylaw, that the existing storage container be removed prior to the issuance of a building permit, and confirmation is provided to the planning department. That an infill lot grading and drainage plan be submitted for the proposed works unless deemed confirmed in writing by the building department that a plan is not required, then this condition would be waived/satisfied. Comments. Public Works has no objection to the construction of a detached accessory structure within the front yard, which has a front yard setback of 6.5 meters. Further, Public Works does not oppose the increased height from the maximum of 5 meters to 5.7 meters. According to the site plan submitted, Public Works has noted that it appears that there will be extensive regrading in the front yard and reconfiguration of the entranceway. Public Works is concerned with how the front of the lot will be regraded and how stormwater will be managed on the lot. Public Works recommends that a lot grading plan be submitted at the discretion of the building department to show how the grades will be adjusted to accommodate the stormwater drainage system, the proposed structure, and new entrance. Public Works comments can be found within Appendix 2 of the staff report.
Thank you. And I will ask the applicant, sorry? Sabino, if he has any further comments to provide. I'm assuming, like you were here last month, I'm assuming that you've had a conversation with building and planning staff. You understand the recommendations. I'm sorry, I'll pass it over to you to speak to the application. But if you can get close to the mic and just press the middle button, and then a light will appear, and just make sure you shut it off when you're done speaking.
Okay, I think the reason why we're here is because of the container on site. It says that a container represents the fourth structure. We have here a paper which it's an email from the container company. Okay, we did not buy this container. It's leased, it's rented, and it's going to be removed as soon as the garage is built. So it would represent the fourth structure only when the garage is built, and if we haven't removed it. But it's my interest to remove it, because if I don't remove it, it becomes an obstacle for me. Is this the paper? Yeah. This is the email from the SOS company stating what the structure.
So we don't need to necessarily see the email. I'm just going to pass that back to the applicant. So we're here in regards to the application. So is there anything else that you'd like to speak to in regards to this application? I know you may not agree with one of these conditions, so it sounds like you may not necessarily agree with one of the conditions. So, but if there's anything else that you'd like to add in relation to this application, is there anything else? No. So there's nothing further to add. So I will ask if there's members from the public that would like to speak to this matter.
I don't think there's anybody on the call anymore, and we don't have anybody in the audience, so no.
Perfect. Thank you. So I will start with Member Paul, and we'll go the other way this time.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just reading item number 5. Interpreting item number 5, that the existing storage container be removed prior to the issuance of a building permit, and confirmation is provided to the planning department. My interpretation would be that that's wide open. I mean, he doesn't have to, according to this, he wouldn't have to remove that until he applies for a building permit, which could be who knows how long. If you're reading the way this has been worded compared to, if I'm correct, the previous meeting we had, I believe there, I don't know if I'm right or wrong here, but previous meeting we had, there was a clause in there that stated that due to the zoning bylaw that that container had to be removed. Does anybody have any reference to that our previous meeting?
So I will refer this to planning staff for comment or,
Through you, Mr. Chair, the condition 5, the wording hasn't changed. That would be the same that was presented at the September Committee of Adjustment meeting.
Okay, thank you. So again, reading that line, and that's wide open, that container could stay there until until he submits for a building permit for the garage, as it reads. That's as it reads. So that could go on for a long period of time. I think what I would like to recommend, if we're not stepping out of the bounds, is that we should be putting a time frame on that.
So just to your comment, item number 1 or condition number 1 is that all of the provisions of the zoning bylaw be complied with. So if there's a requirement in the zoning bylaw that the shipping container not be on the lot, or that it can only be there for a period of time, I'm assuming that the applicant would have to comply with the zoning bylaw, but I can maybe ask the question, is there a requirement, or can that shipping container stay there indefinitely, I guess?
So at this point in time, the shipping container, I don't believe would be a permitted use there on the property, so it wouldn't be something that we would permit to occur for an extended amount of time.
Mr. Chair, just clarification on that. What sort of time frame would be required to have it removed?
Through you, Mr. Chair, we do not have anything in the zoning bylaw that specifically speaks to temporary structures within the front yard. In terms of the current container, as it wasn't shown on the site plan, we're not sure if this would meet the front yard setbacks or the lot coverage. So in order to keep that there, there would need to be confirmation that it does meet all of the zoning bylaw policies, which we don't have at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
The container, what is the purpose of having it there temporarily?
The reason I need a container is because we are moving. As of today, we're closing our deal in our home in Toronto, okay, and we're moving up here, and I don't have a garage, so all my garage stuff is in the container. Until I build a garage, I have no place to put it.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Yes, I,
Was there any other comments from?
No, that's
if I recall in our last meeting, we had suggested you meet with the planning department to discuss the need for a storage container. Did you do that? And the result of that meeting was? Okay, so you didn't come to some kind of understanding with, okay. So if I understand correctly, you're looking for the container for a short period of time to house building tools and those type of things until you're done the. 75% of that stuff that's in the container, it will be gone as soon as. Yes, understand. So I think we suggested this in the last meeting as well, that we amend the application to allow the storage container to be there for a certain amount of time after the building permit has been approved. So we suggested, I think, 90 days as a time period for you to allow you to build the building and use it as. So I don't know if that's beyond our purview, if we can do that or not, but I would suggest I would put a motion forward to include that amendment to the application. Does that sound reasonable?
So planning staff have discussed with the building department, and we have drafted a separate condition if the committee does choose to amend condition, I believe, number 5. I do want to reiterate, though, that the conditions that are included here in the report are planning staff's professional opinion and what we are recommending, but we can help with the rewording if the committee chooses to do so.
Mr. Chairman.
Sounds like I would suggest, if you can read it forward to us to understand what your recommendation would be. Is that fair?
Yes.
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to ask clarification on Mr. Gould's statement about 90 days. Was that after the garage has been built?
No, the 90 days would be after the building permit has been submitted. So it gives him a chance, because you can't start building until he has a building permit. The whole
So
reason
af-
for the
so-
storage
so
container
90
is-
days after he gets the building permit.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's plenty of time, for sure.
At this time, if I get a permit, I won't be able to start before winter, because by the time we start, we're in winter already. So I would need like the 3 months from when I start the garage to when I finish it.
That's what we just stated.
Oh,
We
okay.
We stated 90 days from the date of the issuance of the building permit.
Thank you.
The question is when the building permit is approved. So that's going to be up to you and the building department to decide, I guess, if there's an opportunity for you to decide when you need the building permit approved. So if it's March 1st of next year,
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask that microphones be turned on in the record.
I'm
so
sorry.
we can read into.
I says, in order
Thank you.
for me to have the survey come and pointed for me, okay, I need a permit or an answer from the city to what am I supposed to do.
so could I suggest that staff read out what your recommendation might be and see if that's suitable for what you're requiring?
Yes, through you, Mr. Chair, the condition that we have drafted here states that the existing storage container be removed no later than 30 days after the issuance of a building permit for the proposed detached garage, subject to minor variance application A2622. Confirmation is to be provided to planning staff by the applicant.
So is 30 days sufficient for you to do this?
Yes, 30 days is plenty, but I need a permit before that. I have to, I won't be able, the way I see it now, I won't be able to start probably until the end of February, depending on the weather.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make...
So a question to planning staff is, can he request a date for a building permit to be approved? Or is it just based on when you come through with it?
I'm not completely certain on that. I think that would have to be something confirmed by the building department.
One question. Once I have a permit, is there a limit time to when I can start before my permit would expire, right? So if I get a permit now, soon, okay, do I have time until I start before that? You know, I need those 2 or 3 months. That's my question before we can start. Once I start, then within 3 months, definitely the garage will be built.
My understanding is you have a year from the time that a building permit is a year, I believe it is, to build your building. The problem is going to be, we're suggesting 30 days after the building permit is applied for, so, or approved. So it's not going to meet your needs at the end of the day, is what you're looking for, right? So I don't know if there's another way to do this, that it's at the time you start building. I don't know if that's beyond our purview or not, but I understand your concern, yeah, how to make this workable so it fits within the requirements of the town. So I have to think about how to do that.
Mr. Chair, a comment to the applicant, just for clarification, that when you get your survey done, your survey is done first with the proper setbacks, and then it's laid out on the site plan, your house, and then you submit the drawings. you don't submit the drawings first and then have a survey done. I'm just want to clarify that for you.
Sorry, I already have that on paper where it's gonna be, but I brought it to the surveyor for them to come and point exactly where the garage is going to be. And they said they're not gonna be able to do anything until the city allows me, it says, yes, you can build. I couldn't understand that, but
Yeah,
That doesn't sound right, because
It's-
normally you have to provide all that stuff before you can even apply for a building permit. Shut off the mic?
Okay, so we are here for this application. Planning staff have a proposal if we want to substitute the current conditions, if we want to consider that. My recommendation would be to remove clause 5 altogether, so we would not be, because I think this is a big concern. That's why you're here last month. That's why you're coming back. So if we remove 5 completely, it's just going to read out that you have to comply with the zoning bylaw, and all other conditions are applicable. I mean, if for some reason you don't comply with the zoning bylaw because you have that shipping container, I guess the town could go forward and issue you notices to remove that shipping container, but hopefully you're in the process of building that. So anyways, my recommendation would be to remove it because I think this is a big concern for all. So remove it completely. You still have to comply with the zoning bylaw. That's condition number 1. I don't know if that works for planning staff over here, what your thoughts are on that.
In terms of planning staff's thoughts, I would just note again that our professional opinion is what we recommend here in the report, but it is up to the committee on what conditions they choose to approve.
Mr. Chair, make a comment on that. Maybe if we're concerned about the time frame, maybe we could put a time limit in on it. Period.
So we have two potential options, which is I think we're looking at amending this recommendation to either remove 5, that would be my recommendation, or to use the recommendation that has been provided by planning staff, which would be giving the applicant 30 days to have that shipping container on the property after the building permit has been issued. So you would have 30 days to essentially build that.
sorry about that. So if I would obtain my permit, let's say the end of January, I have till the end of February to start. Okay, that's reasonable for me.
Sorry, not to start, you would have to essentially, based on the recommendation from planning, you'd have to be completed that building. Is that accurate?
So in the, I guess, proposed wording here, it does note that no later than 30 days after the issuance of a building permit for the proposed detached garage, that the storage container would be removed.
Could I make a comment? When anyone's building a house, a builder, they put a trailer on a lot to be there for storage of equipment and those type of things. And it's there until the building is completed, and that's after a building permit's been approved. I suggest, if this is okay, that we put a date, as Daniel has submitted, to say we'll approve this as long as the storage container is removed by May 1st of 2023. it achieves both what you need, and it also ensures that the container will be removed by a certain date and time. And I think is reasonable as well. It gives you an opportunity to have something to store things in. So if we can pick a date that's suitable, is May 1st suitable? So I would submit a motion to accept the application with amendment to item 5, that the storage container be removed by May 1st to 2023.
I second it.
Okay, sorry, just give me 1 second. I'm going to ask this to planning staff. So you've already indicated that having a shipping container on that property may not be permitted currently. Is that correct?
In terms of the current storage container, it's not what we would consider a residential use. As well, we can't confirm that it meets front yard setbacks or lot coverage, as we don't know the exact setbacks from the front lot line or what the area of it is. And if the proposed garage were to be built, that would exceed the overall lot coverage for detached structures, as well as exceed the number of detached structures that are permitted on the lot.
Okay, so just looking for clarification. So if we were to make this change with the 30-day or May 1st, would we potentially be contravening the zoning bylaw?
If at the time that the garage is being built and it's there and the storage container is also there, that would be in contravention of the zoning bylaw. And if it's not currently meeting setbacks, which I'm not sure on at this moment, it would also be in contravention of the zoning bylaw, which is why planning staff did recommend in our conditions that it be removed.
Okay, so again, my recommendation here, because we don't want to contravene the zoning bylaw, because I don't think we have the authority to just arbitrarily decide we're going to allow this contravention to occur. So my recommendation would be to keep the recommendations as set out in this application, or remove condition 5 and let staff deal with the issues if there are any contraventions. That would be my recommendation. Any comments from the committee members?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask whether or not, if we were to amend number 5 with the date as suggested by Mr. Cool, would that not supersede? Would that not supersede the compliance with the zoning bylaw if we were to amend this and it was approved? So in other words, do we have the final say here or not? Simple. I mean, if we want to amend that clause and put a date there, does that not supersede the zoning bylaw that he's in contravention because he's not meeting the setbacks at the time the garage is built? Otherwise, we're just sort of wasting our time here if we're not superseding that item number 5. That's my question.
I'm not completely sure if I understand the question, but in terms of like compliance with the zoning bylaw, if you were to propose that it be removed after so many days that the garage is already built, that would be in contravention of the zoning bylaw.
Thank you.
The whole reason for this committee is to make exceptions to the zoning bylaw. So all these things are in contravention, so we're making exceptions to the zoning bylaw, if I understand it properly. I still would go with my original amendment to the application and would put that motion forward.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'd like to read out the 4 tests as per the Planning Act, which indicates what we base our decisions on here today. So if that application's minor in nature, is the application desirable for the appropriate development of the lands in question? Does the application conform to the general intent of the zoning bylaw? And does the application conform to the general intent of the official plan?
I would say we're in line with your recommendation, May 31st, and that this group, my understanding is, can make exceptions. And if we can't make exceptions, what are we doing? That's my understanding.
I agree, and I don't, this is not the first time this has come up. I mean, if they're putting the conditions, and then we look at them, and then there's something that we see that maybe they didn't, and we're not allowed to amend it because of whatever, then exactly what are we doing here, really? I mean, we're trying to, I always thought that we're trying to find some happy ground here that would comply with the zoning bylaw, and also try and give the applicant a little bit of leeway to try and move this thing forward in a fair manner for both parties. I mean, I don't think that the fact that he's going to remove it as soon as or with 30 days, or if we give a date of May the 1st, he's on that, you know? He's committed to that. And that was the question, whether or not if we amend this, are we superseding what the zoning act is? And if we're not, then what are we doing? If we don't have that authority, we're outside our jurisdiction, you know?
I say we put it to a vote.
Okay, so the vote is that the Committee of Adjustment hereby approve the application from Sabino Catenacci. Hopefully I said that right. As amended, and the amendment being that they would have to comply with the removal or the zoning bylaw by May 1st, specifically the removal of the shipping container. And did you catch that?
Yeah, so I'll just so condition number 5 currently reads that the existing storage container be removed prior to the issuance of building permit, and confirmation is provided to the planning department. And just to clarify, the committee would like it to read that the existing storage container be removed by May 1st, is that correct?
I would say no later than May 1st.
No later than May 1st.
And I would obviously include a year to that as well, 2023.
Yeah, 2023. And I'll take out the part prior to the issuance of building permit. And confirmation is provided to the planning department. So once again, it says that the existing storage container be removed no later than May 1st, 2023, and confirmation is provided to the planning department.
Okay, so that is obviously including the other recommendations in this application. So do I have a mover? And a seconder, so moved by Member Van Gool, seconded by Member Wooten. All in favor? Carried.
Can I go back to my architect now to engineer the building?
We've just provided you with a minor variance.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, I ask that we still remain, we're still in the meeting currently, so, yeah. And your decision has been granted, so you're free to leave now if you'd like.
All right, I apologize. So the next item on the agenda is the next scheduled meeting of the Committee of Adjustment, and that is, we are skipping November's meeting because of the election, so the next scheduled meeting will be taking place December 12th, 2022, here at Council Chambers at 3 o'clock still on Monday. This committee. December 12th. So the next scheduled meeting will be taking place December 12th. This committee, correct?
It will be a new term, so applications and so forth have to be made and so forth, so. Not necessarily, but yes, if you apply or, yes, it's a new term, if that's the question, yes.
Yes, that was a question. So we may or may not be here. So, so. Okay, so that concludes today's meeting. So we are closing off the meeting, and the time right now is 5:04 p.m. Thank you.